This episode is brought to you by Black Butler, parody of The Phantom Hives, a Black Butler abridged series / parody. And by Midnight Musicals. Welcome to the podcast Musical Underground, coming in early 2021. Thank you. Greetings, mortals. Welcome to another session of the Infernal Court in Musical Hell. I'm Diva, your judge, jury, executioner, and Victorian hussy. Many of you are by now familiar with the work of Golan and Globus, masters of the late 20th century B-movie whose work has appeared in such notable venues as Best of the Worst, Mystery Science Theater 3000, and This Very Court. The Golan Globus catalog covers a wide variety of genres, but low budget tends to sum them up very nicely. But what happens when they tackle material that is low budget by design? To answer that question, we turn to our next offender, Mac the Knife. This 1989 film is an adaptation of Kurt Weill and Bertolt Brecht's 1928 work, The Threepenny Opera. And since we're going way back into music theater history on this one, I think it best to call in an expert witness.
Greetings, Diva. I'm here to give you a little history lesson on The Threepenny Opera. So, we have to start with The Beggar's Opera by John Gay, written in 1728. And it's one of the only surviving examples of what we call a ballad opera. It's basically like a great-great-grandparent to musical theater. In 1920, during a very successful year-long production, The Beggar's Opera caught the eye of German playwright Bertolt Brecht. Now, if you're a theater kid of any kind on the collegiate level, then you've probably heard the name Bertolt Brecht or the term Brechtian before. The works of Brecht are often defined by their political commentary or the criticism of the bourgeoisie. Brecht wasn't about escapism. He was about presenting the audience with the facts in an unemotional way and utilizing transgressive theater tropes like breaking the fourth wall or minimalist aesthetics. So, Brecht sought to adapt this ballad opera into a musical play. So he had the text translated from English to German, and he enlisted another big member of the German socialist theater scene, Kurt Weill, to write the music. The Beggar's Opera's original plot and characters would be sustained, but Brecht and Weill would write an entirely new score. The result was Die Dreigroschenoper, or as we call it in English, the Threepenny Opera. It was first produced in Berlin in 1928, and it was just as big a smash as The Beggar's Opera was before it. Weill's score was far more than the usual Brechtian umpas and accordions. He infused jazz, classical, cabaret, and Baroque influences for an orchestra of only 7 musicians who were meant to play over 20 instruments. And of course, Weill's greatest legacy from the Threepenny Opera would be the jazz standard Mac the Knife, which has been performed by Ella Fitzgerald and Bobby Darin and Robbie Williams and My Husband and so many more. By the time Brecht and Weill left Germany by force when the Nazis seized power in 1933, the Threepenny Opera had been performed thousands of times across Europe by numerous theater companies. The Threepenny Opera has been a staple of repertory theaters, opera companies, and experimental theater groups for almost 100 years. As long as there is a socialist need to critique the capitalist world, there will always be a place for Die Dreigroschenoper. Back to you, Diva.
Everybody got that? Good!
Whatever else, this particular adaptation didn't skimp on star power, featuring Richard Harris, Bill Nighy, Roger Daltrey, yes, The Who's Roger Daltrey, and Raul Julia reprising his performance from the 1977 revival of the source material. As for what else Golan and Globus brought to the table, well, let's examine the case of Mac the Knife to find out. Speaking of Roger Daltrey, he leads us in over the credits singing the ballad of Mac the Knife to a bunch of street urchins like it's some twisted version of the Candyman.
When the shark bites with its teeth, dear, scarlet billows start to spread.
The opening number is by far the most famous thing to come out of this score, and it's also sin number 1. The problem with Mac the Knife is that when you boil it down, it's the same 8 bars over and over. So you have to sell it to make it work, and I mean really sell it. Louis Armstrong and Bobby Darin both went hard on this song in their own ways and transformed it into a jazz standard. This movie never takes it farther than a vague mass of Victorian destitutes doing a little step, step, step touch, and it falls flat. Julia stars as the nefarious Macheath, who takes a break from his usual murder ballad-inspiring activities to elope with young Polly Peachum. Polly's parents consist of her shrewish, comically drunk mother and her father, who runs London's Beggars Guild and comes down hard on any unlicensed panhandlers.
You don't actually preach this blithering nonsense in public, do you? It's unprofessional.
Peachum has his hands full as Queen Victoria's coronation is coming up, and business is expected to be brisk, what with the influx of tourism and all. But the news of his daughter's runaway marriage is enough to pull him from business, as he's not keen on Polly marrying in general, and especially not keen on her marrying Macheath specifically, with a side of general mistrust of female sexuality to round it out.
He is a murderer, a thief, one of the most notorious crooks in all of London. I demand a man's vengeance.
Elsewhere, Polly has changed into her wedding gown, or possibly the wedding cake. 80s aesthetic, you gotta love it. She's a bit disappointed to realize a stable has been chosen as the venue for the ceremony and reception, but a few stolen goods and enough candelabra to decorate Liberace's house make the place suitably romantic.
My dearest one, your tiny feet shall not touch this dirty floor. A royal red carpet shall be unrolled beneath you, and the palatial furnishings will be here any minute.
Julius Macheath takes some getting used to. He's definitely less charming than you'd expect from a gentleman criminal character, especially when you consider this is Gomez fucking Adams we're talking about. But I get the impression that this is deliberate. Mac is very firmly in anti-hero territory, and Julia never lets you forget this is an amoral, cold-blooded killer you're looking at. It probably worked a lot better on stage than in this movie, but I can see what he's going for. A drunk priest is brought in to officiate, Roger Daltrey is brought in to break the fourth wall, and the reception is attended by none other than Scotland Yard bigwig Tiger Brown. It's all good because, despite nominally being on opposing sides of the law, Tiger and Mac served together in India, so the former has long been in the habit of winking at the latter's criminal doings. And the two of them have a duet celebrating the questionable glories of military service.
We'll meet a darker race. We'll fight them face to face. Cause it is clear we're better. We kill them, it doesn't matter.
This song illustrates the two main problems I have with the movie. First, the production in general is rather shoddy. That is not to say I expect it to be stylish and glamorous. The premise of the Threepenny Opera is that it is a work by, about, and for the lower classes as opposed to the grand spectacle of traditional opera. A certain amount of grittiness is expected. Presenting this material in the manner of, say, Moulin Rouge would defeat the purpose. But gritty is different from cheap or poorly done. Cabaret, for example, is a very well choreographed movie that has all the grimy, used aesthetic of a dive club populated by the outer edges of the social order. This movie features badly framed shots of clumsy dancing performed on a handful of drab, poorly lit sets. The B-movie aesthetic can be fun, cheesy, and even inventive, but it's definitely not here. But more frustrating than the shabby visuals is the way the film glosses over the themes and subtext in the material. This is a work of social satire, with a strong emphasis on moral hypocrisy and the lack of any meaningful difference between the crimes society condemns and those it ignores or even sanctions. But there's nothing in Menahem Golan's direction that indicates he understands this. Take this song, which is an incisive attack on the glorification of war, particularly in the name of colonialism, but the presentation is stiff and disinterested.
Johnny is missing, Jimmy is dead, and George went crazy with the shooting. But blood is blood, and red is bloody red, and the army goes on and on recruiting.
Likewise, later on we have an extended group number that's mainly about the futility of existence, but comes off like a Les Miserables block party.
We keep ourselves in shape to draw the fellas in. They all enjoy themselves at creeps, and then they call it sin.
Tiger Brown can't stay long, but he assures McKeith that any attempts by Peachum to thwart Mac's union with Polly are bound to fail, as there's nothing in Scotland Yard's files that can be brought against him. Meanwhile, Polly goes back home to reckon with her parents and sing about the reasoning behind her choice in husband, which is basically, what can I say, I like bad boys.
Oh, the way the moon kept shining on. The night was nice for rowing and this girl was gone.
That's it, I am officially done with Roger Daltrey's character. His side commentary doesn't add anything, and he's always popping up in scenes where he's definitely not wanted or needed. Between her dad's slut-shaming and her mother's men-only-want-one-thing rant, it's no wonder Polly is eager to quit her parents' house. In her absence, Mrs. Peachum, played by Julie Walters as Molly Weasley's reprobate cousin, declares that McKeith should have been hanged years ago. This gives Peachum the bright idea of having the law solve his problem for him, so he goes to Scotland Yard to get the dirt on Mac, while the missus goes round to the local pleasure houses to see if any of the working girls will rat him out. And there's more existentialist singing.
We do not mind confessing, the whole thing is depressing. The world is flat, the men are mad, and there is nothing more to add.
Sweet Lucifer, this is making Urinetown look like the Music Man. It turns out Mac does have a Scotland Yard file, and Polly is shocked, I tell you, to discover her leader of the criminal underworld husband has done criminal activities. But she decides to stand by her man, and McKeith decides it wouldn't hurt to lay low for a bit. So he gives Polly a crash course in running the business, and she proves to be a quick study.
I don't know about that. A woman.
A woman? A woman. What do you say to that, Polly?
Elsewhere, Mrs. Peachum has found a possible mole in Mac's regular Thursday night girl, Jenny Diver. Jenny tentatively agrees to help turn her lover in, but is conflicted about it, and comes into work all distressed and mascara-runny. Her co-workers encourage her to spill her beans, and she obliges via sin number 5, Pirate Jenny.
By noontime the dock is all swarming with men coming off that ghostly freighter. They're moving in the shadows where no one can see, and they're chaining up people and bringing them to me.
This is a fantastic song about a poor girl's revenge fantasy, but again, it's ruined by the staging, which is neither exciting nor horrifying, simply dark. In terms of lighting, not mood.
Shoot 'em all!
Also, there's machine guns. Just because. Though I do like how the other prostitutes just kind of brush off Jenny's rant.
And on it is me.
Cool story, Jenny. Anyway! McKeith comes in, a bit behind his usual schedule, and he and Jenny have it out, as he's being denounced in the paper as a seducer of young girls. More than fair. And she's been devoted to Mac since before he was the knife. A bit of masochism tango ensues. Their fond reminiscences are cut off by the noisy arrival of the police to take Mac into custody. Their efforts to do so quickly go south as McKeith takes the commanding officer hostage, violently shoots himself through the window, and leads us on sin number 6, the chase scene. There is so much wrong here. It looks like it was shot by the light of a dying cell phone, the music thinks the whole thing is funnier than it is, the sped-up footage is ridiculous for all the wrong reasons, and I'm pretty sure they're just running through the same 2 sets over and over again. And to top it all off, this is how the whole thing ends.
That was pointless.
So now McKeith is in jail, but the guard is amenable to bribery, so it's not all bad. Also, he gets to lecture the other inmates on how life is much easier when you have money.
But since I've had it up to here, I'm through. There's not a dog from here to Timbuktu would care to live that life a single day.
Yeah, cell block tango the saint. Tiger Brown shows up and he's all tormented that his bestie is behind bars, but Mac is not willing to listen to his apologies.
Just go away, Brown, before I smash your brains in right here.
Damn you, McKeith. Damn you!
We are so close to the tragic gay romance this movie needs to perk itself up. Alas, what we get next is Tiger's daughter Lucy Brown, who it happens not only has a wedding ring from McKeith, but a bun in the oven to go with it.
You brood, so where have you been for the last 4 months?
Look at me! Have you no tenderness, my dear Lucy, seeing your husband in such circumstances?
Well, that was quick. But wife number 2, and a half, comes to join the party, and Lucy and Polly are both quite upset when they realize the situation. And now that they know their husband is a reprehensible lying bigamist, the ladies do the sensible thing and fight with one another.
Oh, I kind of made you laugh. Oh, I want a stupid cow. Me, you call a stupid cow. Look at you, you are so pitiful. Imagining you're beautiful.
Honestly, I have less of an issue with the entire context of this particular number than I do with the fact that it was used as an excuse for a cat fight. And the fact that the actresses' voices do not blend well.
Him leave me for a street girl.
Polly storms off, and Mac sweet-talks Lucy into seducing the warden and getting his keys. Lucy agrees because she's stupid in love, and also because she needs him around to prove her child's legitimacy. So McKeith is now a fugitive, so he does the sensible thing and goes right back to the place he was caught last time, and the woman who led the cops there, and informs Jenny that he'll be hiding out in yet another love nest he has near the docks.
Men were born to lie, and women to believe them.
Alternatively, Mac could just be an asshole. Just saying, Jenny. Having betrayed her lover into the hands of the law, Jenny goes over to the Peachums' place to get her ransom. But Mrs. Peachum refuses to pay, as McKeith is very much not in prison right now. Another catfight seems about ready to break out before Mr. Peachum comes in and fires a warning shot.
When she heard a whistle outside her window.
It was Mackie.
Risking his life to comfort her.
Then he went straight to Suki Tawdry's to comfort her, too.
Before Peachum can act on this new piece of information, the police raid him instead. Tiger Brown is all set to arrest Peachum for, well, he'll think of something, but Peachum counters by threatening to unleash his horde of beggars on tomorrow's coronation festivities.
There'll be hundreds of thousands just like 'em, all with a different disease. Do you know what scrofula is? Do you know what syphilis does to people? Oh, you're right. It doesn't seem fit the Queen should be greeted by such creatures.
As forcing London's citizens to confront the poverty in their midst would be the undoing of society as we know it, Tiger has little choice and Mac gets arrested again during the scene transition. The next morning, he's slated to be hung at 7 o'clock sharp, and the warden has set his bribery price at £1,000. Unfortunately, such a large sum is hard to come by at 6 in the morning, even for a leader of the criminal underworld, and Mac gets progressively more desperate and Puerto Rican as his time runs out.
You've got to live! Who's getting hanged here, you or me?
But by the time 7 rolls around, McKeith has transitioned into the acceptance stage and is even flattered by the large crowd who has come to see him off before they head over to the coronation. Jenny and the Peachums get their gloat on, Mac bids a fond farewell to all 3 of his wives, yes, Suki Tawdry is one as well, and as the noose is put around his neck, he gives his swan song, which is basically an extended fuck you to the rest of the characters.
The crooks, the whores, the cat house owners, the shoes by day and pimps by night, and yes, those dogs in uniform!
But as it happens, McKeith is saved at the last minute. Unfortunately, by the most annoying character in the show.
This is an opera, not live. Have you forgotten?
Who comes here? Who comes here? Who comes here?
Now, this twist ending, in which McKeith is suddenly pardoned by the newly crowned Queen Victoria and granted a land and title, presumably so he can commit crimes against his fellow man in a socially acceptable fashion, is true to the source material. But the sudden leap into metafiction is a turn of the screw too far, making the whole thing awkward and distracting from the sung moral, which is, Life is hard, so be nice to poor people or something. Bertolt Brecht firmly believed that theater should always hold the audience at arm's length, as buying into the illusion would distract them from the message of the work. So it's perhaps appropriate that Mac the Knife never lets you forget what you're watching, namely a low-budget, poorly realized movie, which, if you ask me, is even more distracting than anything the story has to say. It's a badly thought-out attempt at social commentary, so the court of musical hell orders the team of Golan and Globus to spend an eternity reading the work of Ayn Rand. So let it be recorded. This session of the Infernal Court in musical hell is now adjourned.